now want to address a topic why we are here today. We all want to find solutions to the problems of GNA. The general manager has mentioned a lot. I want to add what I also know about the agency so that it will be complete for all of us. And I hope the stakeholders are here and they will take note of what we are going to say. The topic given to me, ladies and gentlemen, is efficient news gathering and dissemination for democracy and national integration. The role of the Ghana News Agency. This topic, even though long, really hinges on the importance and relevance of GNA in our nation building today. The general manager mentioned some. I'm going to add. Okay. To begin with, the efficiency of the GNA in terms of news coverage is beyond question. But before addressing this and other issues, let me first put the GNA in a historical perspective. This will help all of us to understand the institution, GNA, and to know the way forward. The GNA was the first news agency to be established in Africa south of the Sahara as part of a comprehensive communication policy that sought to harness the information arm of the state to build a viable, united, and cohesive nation state. This is the interesting story of GNA. GNA is one day older than Ghana, for those who don't know. The interesting story of GNA has a link with Ghana's independence. According to the records that I have read somewhere, President Nkrumah conceived the idea of setting up a news agency when he was a student. You know, he was a visionary leader. That's why he was voted the African Man of the Century. When he was a student, he conceived of the idea of a news agency. So, a day before independence, that is on the 5th March, amidst all the fireworks and preparations for Ghana's independence the following day, President Nkrumah found time to commission the Ghana News Agency. This shows the importance and value President Nkrumah attached to the Ghana News Agency. He saw the agency as a medium to counter the biased and distorted image of Africa, and for that matter, the third world, as peddled by the Western press. And when the GNA came into being, it was unique in sub-Saharan Africa, because at that time, there were only 2 news agencies. One, the Middle East News Agency, MENA, of the Arab Republic of Egypt, and then the Sudan News Agency, SUNA. They were the only news agencies in Africa. But you see, GNA was the first in Black Africa, if you like. From its very beginning, the GNA was envisaged as the nucleus of an African news agency. The first GNA foreign office was opened in 1961 in London, where there was a large concentration of Ghanaians. Almost about the same time, an office was opened in New York, another in Lagos, Ouagadougou, Abidjan, Cairo, and later on Nairobi, where my boss was. Now all these foreign bureaus have been closed down, and the GNA now is a shadow of its former self as conceived by President Nkrumah. In fact, President Nkrumah had high hopes for the GNA and said, and I quote, "I foresee the day when in the press of the world, any news item warranted by the initials GNA will find an unchallenged place in any newspaper of standing, wherever it may be," unquote. The GNA has lived up to its reputation by providing hard news and solid features. But of course, the journey from 1957 to 2019 is a very long one. During this time, the GNA has gone through a lot of vicissitudes. Yes. There have been times that there have been poor funding, and this has brought GNA to the brink of despair, and sometimes even gloom. So that is the GNA story. It is for this reason that is why we are here today. We want to review the agencies and make suggestions as to how to improve its performance and give it the necessary capacity to be able to function well. But before I do that, let us look at the strength of the GNA. The general manager mentioned some. I'll add more and use one practical example for you all to see. It is cost-effective in the rural and outlying areas of this country. The GNA holds sway in the coverage of rural news in Ghana. With its network of many stringers and reporters, the GNA is strong, and I say it has no equal when it comes to covering rural news. The GNA stringers and reporters go to the remote parts of the country to cover news. This does not only inform the public, it gives the government the necessary feedback to be able to make good and meaningful policies for this country. This aspect of the agency's work is very important. It should be strengthened, and the agency encouraged and motivated to do this work for the benefit of the nation. Really, the GNA has been effective in rural coverage. I'm going to give you one practical example, which most Ghanaians do not know. When Bururi ulcer, that dangerous disease, broke out in this country in the 1990s, it was GNA's coverage of this disease in the Manson Kwanta area of the Ashanti region that brought the disease in the country to the attention of the authorities. I was then the regional manager in charge of the Ashanti region, so I know what I'm talking about. I can recollect that when the GNA first filed the story on Bururi ulcer, the then head of state, Fred Lieutenant General John Lawrence, traveled to the Manson Kwanta area to see things for himself. Then the government quickly moved in to help stave off the West. This and other examples show the pivotal role of the GNA. Any person or institution that underestimates the importance of the GNA will certainly be doing a disservice to this nation. I want to repeat. Any person or institution that underestimates the importance of the GNA will certainly be doing a disservice to this nation. Modeled on the Reuters news agency, the GNA has largely lived by its cardinal principles. We have 3 of them. I'm going to mention 2 first. GNA has largely lived by its cardinal principles of fairness and accuracy. In fact, a Reuters staff, Mr. Donald Rice, was loaned to the agency at the inception of the organization to recruit and to have balanced stories. And this sets the GNA apart from some news organizations. However, the 3rd principle of GNA, speed, that one is now suspect. And the reason is not the fault of GNA. It's because the agency does not presently have sufficient means of transport and the necessary tools to carry out its mandate. If you don't have vehicles, how do you move? This then is GNA's setback. I understand that since 2007, when the agency, the general manager mentioned it, when the agency was given a fleet of vehicles to do its work, the transport situation in the agency is nothing to write home about. The agency should be assisted and funded well to enhance its work. Now let's talk about the performance of the GNA. In terms of performance, the GNA's efficient news coverage has been acknowledged even beyond the borders of this country. The GNA actually helped to train some of the staff of the news agencies which were later set up on the African continent at various levels. The news agency of Nigeria, NAN, sent some people to Ghana to study the GNA system. The Liberian news agency, LINA, also sent some people here for training. And I remember as a young journalist in the newsroom in Accra, I went on assignment with some of these Liberians. Even at this age, I can remember their names, but I don't have to mention their names. We taught them the GNA style of reporting, which is quite unique. And they went back home to have their own new national news agencies. Ladies and gentlemen, the GNA is a national asset which should not be underestimated or downplayed. Its value to the nation is beyond question, and sincere and genuine efforts should be made to enhance its performance. Before touching on the way forward for the GNA, let me briefly look at GNA's role in promoting democracy and national integration. The GNA's role in promoting democracy and national integration is quite obvious. Among other things, the GNA promotes democracy by covering all shades of opinions. It also promotes national integration by covering all parts of the country, including the remotest parts of the country, thereby bringing the programs, the activities, the hopes and aspirations of the people to the attention of the central government. Now, ladies and gentlemen, having said all this, what should be done for the GNA? What is the way forward for GNA? how do we get GNA out of the quagmire in which it finds itself? That is the crux of the matter. And of course, that's why we are here. Ladies and gentlemen, I have my suggestion, and I hope it may be useful. I suggest that stakeholders of the agency, all of them, that is the Ministry of Information, the National Media Commission, the GNA itself, experts from other national news agencies in Africa and elsewhere, as well as communication and financial experts, should meet to fashion out a dynamic and growth policies for the agency. Things have changed, and you should ask the following questions. What is happening to other news agencies in Africa and elsewhere? How are some of them surviving the situation brought about by the changing global scene and technology? These are pertinent questions that we must address. The GNA itself must also adapt to the new technologies and circumstances of the times. The GNA Business Department, for example, should be expanded and capitalized. This can bring in revenue to the agency. The agency should be made to move with the changing technologies of the times. This really calls for a new and major policy framework for the agency to follow. This policy should be fashioned out by all the stakeholders mentioned earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the way to sustain the growth and progress of the GNA for the benefit of the whole nation. Thank you.